If you want a VR shooter with multiplayer and some single player stuff, 3 games will always pop up: Onward, Pavlov and Contractors. So let's compare them. They're all available for PC and the Quest, although the Quest version of Pavlov is different to PC, called Pavlov Shack, and it's currently free on the App Lab, whereas Onward and Contractors are the same game with just better graphics on PC. Both are also available on the Oculus Store. Onward is $25, Contractors is $18, and Pavlov on PC is $25. All 3 games have a really solid player base now that they're on the Quest, although Pavlov isn't cross-play, so has the Oculus and PC player base separated, whereas the other 2 are cross-play, but Pavlov has a big enough audience on PC to still have plenty of busy servers for you to join. One thing that can massively affect how a game is played is the time to kill. This is the amount of bullets it takes to kill an enemy. Using a pistol in Onward, it's 3 shots to the chest and 2 with an assault rifle. Contractors takes 5 shots with a pistol and 4 with an assault rifle, and Pavlov takes 6 with a pistol and 4 with an assault rifle. This does vary slightly depending on the armour the enemy is wearing. What this does is cause people to play differently depending on the game. So Onward, you're going to be playing slower, use cover, and you're going to be more tactical, and it really encourages teamwork, whereas the other 2 let people run and gun more, and you're less reliant on teammates to get kills. So what is there to actually do in these games? They all have co-op as well as multiplayer stuff with the option to play something solo. Onward has the least amount of game modes, with the co-op stuff consisting of Hunt, which is basically terrorist hunt mode from Rainbow Six games. You spawn in a map and have a certain amount of enemies to kill, and Evac, where you have to hold off waves of enemies until a helicopter comes to pick you up for extraction. PvP stuff has Assault, where you have to either attack and transmit a signal to an uplink station, or defend it, and you can respawn when you die. Uplink is the same thing, but no respawns, so when you die you have to spectate until the round is over, and then you've got Escort, where one player is a VIP with only a pistol, and your teammates need to escort you to the extraction point. Contractors has more modes for co-op, online and single player. Co-op stuff includes missions, where you go to a predetermined map and you've got objectives to do. These can be things like eliminate 3 high value targets, find 3 password fragments and send the signal, or escort type missions where you have an NPC you have to escort across the map. There is a survival mode where you fight waves of enemies. You get money each round to spend on new weapons and upgrades, and then you've got the zombie mode, which is the same thing but with zombies. These can also be played solo. There is also a free roam mode which lets you choose any map including mod maps and play against bots single player. Online PvP, you've got 3 categories: casual, which is 5v5 with more fun and friendly atmosphere. You've got competitive, which is also 5v5, but it's for people who take it more seriously and maybe have regular games with groups. Then you've got ground war, which is an 8v8, so it's good for larger maps or if you want a more chaotic game where you're constantly in the action. You also have loads of modes, too many for me to go into detail on all of them, but these include domination, control, which is controlling a certain area which then moves to a different location, bomb defusal, team deathmatch, free-for-all gun game. This is one of my personal favourites, where you get a predetermined starting gun and each time you get a kill you get a new weapon. You start off with the better weapons and gradually get guns that are harder to get kills with, and the first person to get the knife kill wins the game. There is also extraction and kill confirmed, where you have to kill and then get their dropped dog tags. Contractors also recently added custom game modes, so modders can design and make their own game modes, although it's early days so not many custom game modes exist yet. Pavlov has some co-op stuff as well, like Zombies and Hunt, which is a wave-based mode similar to Survival in Contractors. There are also custom co-op stuff like playing Call of Duty zombie maps, which are pretty much identical, with preset weapons you can buy in the maps, board up windows, etc. Online PvP stuff include Gun, which is gun game, Team Deathmatch and Search and Destroy, which is basically Counter-Strike, with preset locations you have to defend and stop the enemy from planting the bomb, or attack and plant the bomb. Pavlov has been around for a long time though, and it's had full mod support for years, which means there are loads of custom game modes online. There are so many I can't even begin to list them all, and new ones are getting added all the time. You have stuff like TTT, which is basically where a bunch of kids stand around saying, "You're the terrorist, no you're the terrorist," over and over until everyone shoots each other. Push is similar to the rush modes in Battlefield, where you have preset locations you have to plant bombs, You have to take out all the points before you run out of reinforcements. These are usually World War II themed, and some have hardcore damage, making them more like Onward's Time to Kill. You've even got tanks in some of them. There is an Escape from Tarkov style mode, where you start with only a pistol and no gear. You go in and you try to kill people and find loot and make it out of an extraction. If you die, you lose the loot you carry with you. There's some really weird shit where I had no clue what I was doing, like this one where I think you're in a town and you can roleplay. There really is so many new game modes, it's hard to keep up, and Pavlov still has a really strong player base on PC. You can also play the base modes, single player against bots, but the bots are absolutely terrible in Pavlov. Let's talk about the AI in these games, because whilst most people will play PvP against others, you can see from the servers there are still plenty of people playing these games co-op. Onward's AI used to be better, but when it went to the Quest, the PC version got some heavy downgrades including the AI. I'm going to revisit this in another video to compare the two builds of the game, and I'm going to see how close they are now developers have had a chance to improve things, but in the latest build, if they see you, they will fire very quickly and with pretty good accuracy. The higher the difficulty, the faster and more accurate they are. You need to use cover because of the low time to kill you have, so they take a couple of shots to kill, but you do as well. They will lay suppressing fire, and you really feel like you're being shot, and it gives you those oh shit moments when bullets are whizzing past you and you're trying to find cover. They are very predictable though. They see you, they shoot at you, and then they walk towards you. You can bait them to come to you and take them out as they come round the corner, and sometimes they even walk in a single file while you pummel them with bullets. Contractors' AI is much more agile. They'll run around more, they'll push you sometimes, but they won't just walk straight towards you, and they'll sometimes back off and find cover. Ultimately, don't expect any super advanced AI with any of these games, but Contractors is the best out of the three. Pavlov's AI is just dumb. They walk around very slowly, they react very slowly, sometimes they end up grouping together and staring at a wall. We can actually do some direct comparisons with the same map, as both games have got the Call of Duty Nuketown maps as a mod. You can see Contractors' AI don't get stuck, they push you, and sometimes they run away. Contractors also has the best animations both for the AI, but also for the players. It's the only game that has got full arms instead of just floating hands, but you can have floating hands in the options, so the inverse kinematics are much better for the arms and elbows, which helps other players look less funky, and they seem to override the player controlled arms when you sprint. Pavlov's bots look really rough with the way that they twist and contort, and Onward's players and bots walk around like they've just pooed their pants. When it comes to loadouts, Onward and Contractors are very similar, with several loadout profiles you can configure and save. Each gun or attachment has a point value attached to it, and you only have so many points that you can spend on a loadout, so you have to pick and choose which guns and attachments you want without going over that point limit. You can set up more than once or configure different loadouts for different maps or game modes. Contractors also has multiple loadout presets, so for example, the default one has modern weapons. You also have a World War II one, which has obviously got World War II weapons. There's a ninja one with bow and arrow and katanas only, a pistols only, or a snipers only one. Modders can also add custom loadouts, and we're already seeing some really great loadouts, like a Halo one with all the weapons from Halo games, and recently a Star Wars Battlefront one. Pavlov uses a weapon system for most of its modes similar to Counter-Strike, so when you're in the game, when you spawn, you get to buy weapons and armour with money. The better you do, the more money you get. They do have game modes like Push, where you have preset loadouts for different classes, so you've got a sniper class or a rifleman class for example, and only so many people can have each class, so not everyone can just pick the sniper. The holster systems for storing weapons are very similar in all three, with predetermined points on your body for your main gun, pistol, knife and grenades. The main weapon in Pavlov is stored over your shoulder, whereas in Onward and Contractors it's in front of your body. You have options to use the trigger to grab stuff like ammo, for example, then grip for knives and grenades. This is really useful because it stops you from grabbing a knife or a grenade when you want to grab ammo instead. Let's talk about weapon handling because they all have a different feel to them with the way that they handle recoil. Onward has some recoil on pistols and none if you two-hand them. Bigger weapons like assault rifles have very heavy recoil one-handed, but again pretty much none if you two-hand them. Contractors has low recoil on pistols, one or two-handed, but it's slightly more when one-handed. Assault rifles have heavy one-handed and reduced two-handed, but they still have some kick, so it's better to fire in bursts or switch to single fire mode for medium to long range targets. Pavlov has low recoil, one or two handed with pistols, but extremely heavy recoil with assault rifles. It's pretty wild one handed and still has a lot of kick two handed, so again short bursts or single fire is best. Onward has the least. Pavlov has the most, with Contractors somewhere in between. When it comes to reloading, they all work the same with full manual reloads. All three suck the magazine into the bottom of the pistol when you get close. This is because you would end up banging your controllers together if you had to put the magazine all the way in. Onward doesn't have hand posers for racking a slide, so when you grab the top of the pistol, you're grabbing the air rather than grabbing the gun. Contractors and Pavlov both have hand posers for this, which feels much nicer. The magazines for assault rifles in Onward suck up when you get near them like the pistols, whereas in Contractors and Pavlov, you have to push them all the way in manually. This feels much more satisfying. Pavlov have also added some nice little animations as you slot the mag in, which adds a little bit of polish. Again, Onward has no hand posers for racking a slide, Contractors and Pavlov does. I much prefer the gun handling for reloads with Contractors and Pavlov, but Onward is still fine, it's just not as satisfying. With recoil, that's subjective. I prefer Contractors as it strikes a nice balance between the two. It gives the guns a feeling of power, but it's still controllable. I also like the way you get some subtle movement of the camera in Contractors when you two-hand a weapon, which again makes the guns feel more powerful. Graphics are again subjective. I think if we just compare base game content, then Contractors would probably take the win for me. They have some really nice detailed weapon models with great material effects like metal, where you can see scratches in the line. Pavlov also has some great weapon models, and I'd say that they're on par with Contractors, maybe even a little better in some circumstances. Onward's weapons look the worst, but still okay. They used to be great, but again, they got downgraded, with some stuff looking like plastic rather than metal. The maps are much more consistently nicer in Contractors. They've got some great detail, and other than some low resolution textures here and there, they look good. Pavlov's maps are a little mixed. You've got some of the older OG maps, which are showing their age, but some of the newer ones, like the ones set in Greece, look fantastic, and look better than the other three games. Onward's levels also look respectable, but I think one of the big things that both Contractors and Pavlov have in their favour is that they use the Unreal Engine, whereas Onward is Unity. And the lighting in Unreal Engine games, the material effects on stuff like plastic or metal objects, just looks much more realistic, and it makes a big difference. Obviously once you start messing with custom levels, then this becomes very different. Onward has custom levels in the workshop, although most of the servers use the base game content, so you are limited. If you find a game with a custom level you don't have, it will direct you to the map in the download section. You then have to download it and then go back to the servers to find the game that you want to join, whereas in Pavlov and Contractors, the game will automatically download the map and start the game when it's finished. With both Onward and Contractors, you will find that the maps are clearly made for the quest, with more simple geometry and low resolution textures, whereas because Pavlov is PC only, or quest only, if you're on PC, you get much better quality maps. We can do a direct comparison with the Nuketown map. They're slightly different versions, but you can see from the video that the bus is much more squared off on Contractors version. The Pavlov version looks much nicer, with some nice reflections and high resolution textures. This is unfortunately the price you pay for Quest crossplay. So if you're on PC, just be prepared for the custom maps on Contractors and Onward to not look as good as they could be. That doesn't mean all custom maps on Pavlov on PC are amazing looking. The Escape to Tarkov level is very basic and low poly. But there are some maps, especially stuff like Call of Duty maps, which look great. Contractors really needed the Quest support because on PC only the player base wasn't big enough, and after a few updates and official mod support, it's growing fast, with Halo mods and Call of Duty based map servers always full of players. It's a sacrifice, but it's one that's worth it for an active player base. Unfortunately, Onward already had an active player base on PC, and from the number I'm seeing, it seems to be about the same as it was before, but now it's on Quest with crossplay, so you get the pleasure of playing with annoying kids instead of toxic adults. Overall, all three games are good and have their place. Depending on what you're looking for will depend on the game you want to go for. Onward is slower paced and more tactical. Contractors is faster paced, with some of the nicest movement out of the three with a jump button and a slide mechanic when you crouch while sprinting, and it feels the closest to Call of Duty in VR. But now with the ability to actually play your favourite Call of Duty maps and Halo maps, with lower gravity and the Halo weapons, or Star Wars Battlefront, it's excellent. Pavlov on PC also has Call of Duty maps. It's got World War II more authentic, larger scale battles. It's got Counter-Strike maps with the Counter-Strike modes, as well as a bunch of other stuff. So depending on your playstyle and what sort of game you want, will depend on which to go for. My personal favourite for co-op is Onward because I like that tactical element, but I prefer Contractors for the PvP, especially on the Call of Duty levels. And that's the end of the video. Let me know which one you like the most, and if I've missed anything.